to the long awaiting P.P.P. No, we're not talking about the P.P.P. loan. Okay, let's get that straight. Okay, we're talking about peace, power, and prosperity. Now, before I get into the meat of why I chose to name it that, the intention behind this lovely sacred space, I want to give a shout out to S.STREET Media. Woo! For giving me this wonderful opportunity. I was a rewardee for one of the contests, so big up, big up, big up. All right, so peace, power, prosperity. Why did I choose to name this space that? So it all began, what happened was, as a Caribbean woman, first generation in the United States, I came to New York 2 years ago, single, and in the Caribbean they don't teach us how to date, so I decided to date intentionally, and I came across certain obstacles. We're gonna just say obstacles and challenges, and it almost left me it was untasteful, almost defeated. But I'm a natural scientist, so I use it to solve problems for myself, because that's what we have to do. We first have to start with self, right? So this is what happened. I analyzed myself, and I decided, how could I put everything that I've learned into a space that I can bring other people involved and have raw conversation in the hopes of solving just natural ills in society. So P.P.P, because that's what we need. We need peace, all right? We need to harness our power, and ultimately our natural, innate right is prosperity on this earth. So that's why this came about. And the interesting way that I'm going to do this 6-series podcast is that I'm going to work as a scientist. So we're going to have the hypothesis, then we're going to have our observations, results, and conclusion. So for this first episode, we're going to have a solo long monologue, myself, Yvonne. All right, so the way we're going to do it, the control is going to be questions. We're going to have questions. I formulated the questions. However, I haven't sat with it, digested. So this is going to be my first time testing out the questions. But for the other series, we're going to have a few guests, male, female, different ethnicities, different age ranges, and they're going to be part of the observation for the conclusion of this podcast, right? So before I start with the meat and the nitty-gritty of the podcast, I'm a poet first. In this realm right now, I'm exploring the different aspects of being an artist, hence me sitting right here. So I'm going to do a poem involving love, because that's the essence of any relationship, love at its core. So this is a piece. I don't usually do that often. I'm going to read from my sacred book. It's like my Bible. All right. So if you so choose to, audience, hey, if you so choose to, I'd like you to focus on your breath. We're going to take 3 powerful, long breaths together. So let's go. In through your nose. Out through your mouth. In through your nose. Out through your mouth. One more time. In through your nose. Out through your mouth. Right now, I need your ears and your heart. Ears and heart, please. So, I believe love is made up of all of the good words, well balanced out with the right dosage of each word, right? I've experienced painful love because of passion, courageous love because of loss, tough love, well, because of love, unconditional love because of strength and endurance, and the most profound love is divine love because of worthiness. poem. So that's the essence of the podcast, where we can center relationships around love, where we can find worthiness within ourselves and worthiness in terms of whoever we choose to date. Now, before I go into the question, one of the things that I realized about the society today, we have different types of love. People engage in poly relationships, people monogamous. One of the ills that I find is that people are not true to themselves when it comes to how they engage in relationships, because they don't take time to question, dissect their own self to see how they receive love. Do they even have space for love or commitment? So this raw conversation between woman and woman, man and man, is geared, maybe put a dent into society, because this is just a micro problem. We have a lot of different problems within society, but this micro problem, step by step, ultimately will give us a successful society, hypothetically, right? So I have my questions here, and this long monologue, I want you to engage. Those people on live, you can hop into the comments, give your feedback. These questions are not rigid. I'm not a rigid person. So as this series progresses and I have my different guests on here, it can switch up. It's also not confined, meaning that if you don't feel comfortable answering a question, we can rephrase the question or we can ditch the question altogether. But ultimately, it's raw conversation to find solutions, resources to help each other, right? Because that's what we have to do. Community is important. So the first question that I pulled randomly from the pile is, this is a tough one. I must say it's a tough one, because I think it is so, how would I put it? It has been diluted as society has expanded to what it is today. It's been diluted. So it's intimacy, right? And the question goes like, what is your current understanding of intimacy, and do you enjoy intimate settings, and why? So me, I enjoy intimacy. Intimacy is a key ingredient for me, and my understanding of intimacy is, I would say, consideration, because when you're intimate with another individual, you almost have to understand their love language to set up the intimacy. Meaning, intimacy can be you're cooking together if your partner loves to cook. It can be braiding your partner's hair. It can be just making a cup of coffee. And on a grander scale of intimacy, some people prefer more practical terms of intimacy, in terms of like the family unit, in terms of being able to pay bills, being able to understand spiritual aspects of the household. So me, I love intimacy in every which way form, and yeah, I enjoy it because it provides space for me to be vulnerable, and dive deeper into my emotions. So you guys on the live, do you enjoy intimacy, and why do you enjoy intimacy? So you can put it in the comments. All right. So next question. Let's see. So this one says, what is your idea of dating? Dating. What is your idea of dating? Quite frankly, I had no idea what dating was, because as a Caribbean woman, one of the things that was hammered growing up is wife, commitment, one partner for the rest of your life. You keep together for 40 years. So in my personal experience with dating, I only like last year intentionally date, but before I was committed relationship after committed relationship after committed relationship. So my idea of dating did not start off right, because yes, I said I was dating, but like the first few months of dating, I was with one person dating, and it was like a placement holder for a relationship. Um, and as I just took time to understand the aspects of dating, I almost felt guilty, because this was like in, you entertaining different people. But that's the point of dating, is that you have to experience different type of people, so you can know what you like, how you like it, when you like it, right? And that does not include a sex, right? Because when you with a partner, they have key fundamental things that's needed, and everybody need different things. So my idea of dating is still evolving. And like I said in the beginning, I was on the brink of hopelessness when it came to dating. I almost rebuke love, if you if you would say, because love, me personally, is like my kryptonite. When I meet somebody and I give them my heart, it's almost like, they're in charge. So I became more protective of my heart space. I became more aware of my boundaries, and I realized that with dating, you have to give yourself time. You have to be more patient with yourself and more patient with the individual that you're dating. So that's my take on this question. You guys, like I said in the comment, you can give your feedback. I would love to read it afterwards, because that's what we're here for, community. I can learn something from you all, and vice versa. All right, next question for the evening is, how do you reclaim your personal power after facing major setbacks? Whoa, that's a big one. I honestly am still learning that, because what I realize is that sometimes after major setbacks, we dive into relationships, or we engross ourselves in things just to patch up a wound, just to sweep it under the rug, never taking time to internalize. Now, luckily, I'm a very introspective person, so I will naturally take time to introspect. However, don't get it twisted. There's a book called The Body Keeps a Score. I still feel it on an emotional level, and I still feel it physically. I'm one of these people that instead of feeling an emotion, I think through my emotions all the time. And that could just leave me in just lost in thoughts and be stagnant and not productive. So some of the things that I do for myself personally, I love to run. I take time to pray all throughout the day, and I read my Bible. I read my Bible as well, but I find things that just stand up from like affirmations, and I don't want to say affirmations for the sake of affirmations, but I almost have to, what would I say? I almost have to hypnotize myself, retrain my brain, because some things currently I'm still processing, and I'm still learning how to come out of it. So that was a deep one, but I always remember that my power lies within my center, and if I take time to acknowledge my breath, if I take time to stand in gratitude, if I take time to make space for love, for myself and for my community, that it is stepping blocks to getting over challenges. All right, so let me know. And I'm trying to be as vulnerable as possible, as raw as possible. So this is a space that is new to me, because I only like to be raw and vulnerable with people that I know, people that I trust. So welcome to my vulnerable seat. Ooh, so all right. Prioritizing. What do you need within a relationship? Ooh, what do you need within a relationship? Me personally, the main key thing, communication. I think communication is a big thing for me when it comes to relationships, and knowing how to communicate effectively, especially in hard times when emotions are heightened, when problems are knocking at your back. How do you know how to communicate with your partners, all right, for solution orientation, all right? How do you in a relationship communicate where there's space to receive the communication and you're vulnerable enough to communicate your emotions? Okay, so this is the main thing that I need in a relationship for me personally. What do you guys need in a relationship? Your priority. Well, this says priorities, so I will go and throw in something else in there. I would say, apart from communication, I would say responsible. Responsible is a big one. Knowing how to deal with responsibilities. I think that a lot of adults find it challenging to deal with responsibilities because, to be honest, sometimes it's a new space. We have to understand that we're growing and evolving human beings, and even if we're given the title of being an adult, what does that mean when you face with a challenge that you've never faced with before? How can you show up and be responsible when you don't even have the tools or the resources to be responsible? So I enjoy a partner that is responsible and know how to tackle obstacles, because that's what the life is. The life is hard. The life is challenging, right? So that was a good question. All right, we're rolling on with this wonderful questions. Oh, this one is intense. What role does forgiveness play in achieving collective peace? That's a big one for me, because I've been in situations where I've lost people close to me. They're still living, but we don't speak anymore because of simple lack of forgiveness. And they say they say treat your neighbors like you would want to treat yourself. So ultimately, forgiveness starts with self, and I'm a testament for that, because I am still learning to forgive myself for lessons that I didn't learn, and I put it in that form because I don't really attune with the word mistakes that much, because I think that when something happens and we don't do the necessary things, it's just we miss the lesson, and if you know how life works in cycle, the lesson always comes back. So I try my best to forgive myself for lessons that I'm still learning, meaning they're reoccurring and I'm still not learning my lesson because I'm hard-headed, okay? The truth is the truth. I'm hard-headed. And knowing that there's no age to it, we say, okay, at my big age, why am I not learning a lesson? So I'm learning to give myself grace, and that too filters to the people that surround me, whether it be in my daily life or people that I meet on the street. I give people grace and compassion. Ooh, compassion. A lot of people don't understand what compassion means, and it's hard to follow through with compassion, because it's almost like taking your kindness for weakness sometimes. Sometimes it does feel like that when you're being compassionate to someone, and you're giving them grace, and they're not receiving the grace, they're not receiving the compassion. What they do is they fight you back with force, right? And it can be tough, it can be challenging. Sometimes your gangster have to come out. But but in all fairness, that's the way of life. We go through more challenging situations each time. We learn the lesson, it becomes more challenging. That's why how we evolve into a supreme being, right? And that's what we come here to do. Learn the lessons that we come here to do, and show compassion. That's a tough one. All right. So Make sure you be compassionate to your neighbors. Make sure you forgive yourself first and carry out that forgiveness to your people in your circle and to people, the community at large, right? I will put in there though that with compassion, which is aligned with forgiveness, make sure that you set your boundaries, right? You set your boundaries and you stick to them. Whatever that means for yourself. Okay? Respect. Now, next question. Do you give yourself time to reset after a relationship? Woo! That's a spicy question. Do you give your Do you give yourself time to reset after a relationship? For me, I would say no. I did not give myself time to reset after a relationship. As soon as somebody came and I had interest in them, they had interest, I followed through and just keeping it real. Just keeping it real. And a lot of things happen within that space of just carrying your energy from one person to another, right? You're triggered, you're easily triggered because you don't take time to heal. You don't take time to understand the do's and the don'ts of that person because you still have that energy lingering from the other person, right? And another thing is that you're not patient. You're not patient because you're like, okay, well, I lost this person. Somebody came along. I can lose that person and somebody else can come along. And I run into that problem a lot with like the people that I know, like my friends that I talk to. They I'm not talking about them, but I'm just talking in general, right? Sometimes I'm not talking as a woman, I'm just talking both sexes, sometimes we gauge the sexes as the sexes, right? We say, oh, this is what men do, oh, this is what women do. Granted, they have qualities that exist within each sector, okay? Men was built a certain way, women was built a certain way. And that's just one frame because right now we have different types of gender. But that's my reality. That's my reality, so that's what I can talk about right now, right? So when we engage with somebody, we're already coming with that perspective, right? And what about perspective? Perspective is reality. So we put in that reality onto that person. Right now, one of the things that I'm doing for myself is I'm giving myself time to step back to analyze myself. What did I do? How did I go wrong? What was too fast? What was too slow? How did I receive that person? How did that person receive me? And now I've been in New York for just 2 years now, and it's a whole different dynamic in New York in terms of dating and relationships. So learning that environment of dating, right? So it's a really fast moving pace within New York, and sometimes when you trying to just take care of life for yourself, you don't even have the patience to deal with somebody else's problems, even if we all want a relationship, we all want a partner. Ultimately, that's what we designed for to be fruitful and multiply. So resetting is necessary. Resetting is necessary, and I wouldn't say to go slow if you find somebody, but I just want people to understand that you need to take time for yourself to analyze yourself, right? It's not just based on emotions because life is real. It's real. So this is the question. And if you guys have anything to input, put it in the chat. Those people on live, I would love, like I said, to hear what you'll have to say so I can learn something. I'm really excited about my guests that would come and just having a proper dialogue to hear their point of view and to give me a different perspective as well. All right. So next question. So what does true prosperity mean to you beyond financial wealth? What does true prosperity mean for you beyond financial wealth? I would say true prosperity is knowing yourself inside out, right? And I said inside first because, spirit first. And we all believe that, okay, like spiritual people, we're all light, but we all have our shadow selves. So knowing your strengths and knowing your weakness is true prosperity, because you're able to navigate the world with your strength, and you're able to know your weaknesses, meaning that if you can learn something, if you can build up whatever you need to do to, or just like put your weaknesses on chill mode, because your weaknesses don't have to be a defect. It can be like a force. Your weakness can be a force. You can be a force to reckon with, so just knowing the different sides of yourself, I think is true prosperity. And it's a really challenge because we're all bombarded by all different facets of life. It's everything that I'm saying right now is always easier said than done. Easier said than done. Lately, I've been having conversations with older women, and I think it's very necessary to have this conversation, because you learn lessons, right? And you can see the trajectory, sort of, kind of who you can be when you get to that age. And to be frankly, to be honest with you, it's really saddening. I was sad by the different conversations, and it almost left me hopeless in terms of commitment. But I will say this, is that I was dealing with a certain, what's that called again? Demographic of people, and I did not branch out my research. I did not branch out my research, so that's why the results were similar. However, I fall in that demographic. So what does that say, And just looking at the patterns of my life right now, that I may be headed that direction. So all of this played a part in me wanting to have a podcast surrounded by just the conversation. We just having conversation. Nobody's wrong, nobody's right. We just putting things on the table and seeing how things resonate. As I take time and I have other guests, I'm going to take time myself personally to introspect and listen to what they say and see how I can make different changes in my life. All right, so next question, guys. By the way, I'm having a lot of fun with this monologue. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be honest with you. I know I was intimidated because this is my first time in this space, and the way that I decided to run this podcast, I've never did this before, so it was intimidating. But I know that once Spirit, God put something on your heart, it always falls on the ears that it needs to hear it. So, like I said, I really am appreciative of S.STREET Media for creating the community. Yeah, for creating the community and giving me the opportunity to do this. So thank you again. All right, next question. How do you cultivate inner peace amidst chaos? Ooh. On a real it doesn't happen instantly. Especially like if it's true chaos. We're not talking about surface level thing. We're talking about like when every shit hits the fan and you in complete darkness, because chaos can look like darkness. How do you cultivate inner peace? And for first, the awareness. I start with the awareness of the emotions that I feel in. I look around my surroundings to see if I have support. All right, and then I remind myself that I can find center within myself. But it's not something that happens instantly. I have to be patient with myself, because sometimes it takes a few days. Honestly, it takes a few days. It just depends on the gravity and the heaviness of the chaos, and sometimes it's not something that you can easily come out of, right? Because some people in marriages, some people in jobs, situations that they just cannot come out of. So breathing, meditation, writing, exercising, all of these things, but you have to find what works for you, and you have to actually do it. You cannot be stuck in your head, all right, or be stagnant. That's one of my problems. When chaos, before I even think about moving, fight or flight, stillness. I just just stay still, and that is still not good, because you have to do something. You have to do something, because time is still ticking. The world is still going, and by the time you resurface, you have to catch up the time you lost, right? And you still have to pick up the mess. So inner peace, knowing what your inner peace too feels like, that's a big one. Sometimes people have lived in chaos their whole entire life, and they don't even know the feeling of peace, right? And for me personally, I was raised in a chaotic household. Yes, it was full of love. Yes, we had God involved and all of these things, but it wasn't until I was thrown into the real world that, hey, the way that you're carrying things is in a chaotic manner. Organization, discipline, self-sabotage, all of these things contribute to chaotic environments. So the older that you get, the more lessons, the more experience, the more people you interact with, can help with cultivating or knowing what inner peace looks like. And you also have to listen to your intuition. Listen to yourself. Trust yourself, right? It's important. That's one of the biggest things. When you see you stop trusting yourself, it's a wrap. If you cannot trust who you with every single second of the day, what you gonna do? So that was a lesson that I learned a few years ago, actually. So yeah, on to the next question. If you have any feedback, put it in the comments. All right. So, what are the challenges you face when trying to achieve peace, power, and prosperity within a relationship? When you're trying to listen, let me tell you a true story, right? I was dating this gentleman that, I don't know what it was, what happened, but it was like he just snatched my hat and he just had it in his hand, right? And just that, he just had my hat in his hand. But in terms of like the foundation of the relationship, it was not good. It was detrimental, especially for me, because we couldn't formulate peace. All right, we couldn't do nothing to create power nor prosperity within the relationship, right? So I think it starts with self-love, to be honest with you. Loving yourself and knowing your value and your worth. Because once you know that for yourself, you're going to know what you're going to tolerate, what you're not going to tolerate, what you're going to give, how much you're going to give, and the time frame, because ain't nobody got time. You understand? If you're with somebody and you're trying to, let's say we have a plan to create a business or whatever the case may be, and we cannot even formulate a business plan together, how would we be able to run the business, deal with the obstacles of the business, right? So you have to be careful in the streets. You have to be careful in the streets, and you have to lead with your heart. Yes, you have to guard your heart. You have to lead with it and guard it at the same time. But you also have to be responsible for yourself. Be responsible, and don't fall into temptations of the world when it comes to the relationships. Yeah, so I say that for you and me. We're talking to myself as well. All right, so let's move on to the next question. Okay. What societal changes are necessary for more people to experience peace, power, and prosperity? So societally, that's a lengthy conversation, to be honest with you. That's a lengthy conversation. But I will touch on a few points, right? In society, when we talk about, let's say, the family unit, right? What are the basic necessities for the family unit? You have to be at least financially secure enough to have a house, apartment, be able to feed your family, right? And have kids. Like, kids are such a beautiful thing to have in the household. Have a dog or two. Just live a comfortable lifestyle. And as we know that economically, especially in different parts of the world, it's just not feasible, right? So one of the things that the challenge is just the stresses of just being a human being, just the stresses of trying to find food, interferes with the relationship, interferes with peace within the household, because people stress, they don't know how to communicate that. All right, people feel as if they're lacking in terms of providing in what way, in any way or form. So this is a big question, actually, and maybe as more guests come on the show, we can dive deeper into this question. But the solution to this is more on a governmental scale, to be honest with you, because it trickles down to the human being. All right. So, what is your style of relationship? Meaning, are you polyamorous, or are you what's that called? Monogamous? Why? So for me personally, what I realized is that I'm very monogamous. I prefer just having one partner where I can trust fully, because I want to pour everything into that person. And if and listen, it's not that I cannot be polygamous. It's just that it just wouldn't be true to who I am as a person, because I love to give all of myself into something. And if I'm spreading myself far and wide, it's not going to be fruitful. It's not going to be fruitful and beneficial to who I am as a woman. And no shade to everybody. I'm actually fascinated and intrigued by people that have different types of relationship. I'm always like, tell me more. How you do this? How you do that? Because, for instance, I know of an individual, and it's a lady friend of mine. She has a fiance, she has a boyfriend, and she has a girlfriend, right? And to be honest with you, in New York, when I was dating, it was so easy to do. It was so easy because nobody have time to like focus on one person. So they get what they need, fill a void with one person, and on the other flip side, they said if they at work, they fill a different void with somebody, and that's how it is. That's the vicious cycle. So, I mean, like I say, no shade to anybody. If that's fulfilling to you, you do you. But my style of relationship is more now I can't even say the word, because to be honest with you, I feel like it's gonna be extinct sooner or later. But yeah, I prefer one partner committed, working on goals, and executing them. Next question, right? How do you create space for introspection? For me, as a poet, I am fortunate to find time to write. But like I say, I'm naturally introspective because I always want to evolve into the better person, a better version of myself. Every time I have a conversation with somebody, whether I make it be known, I'm paying attention to the things that they're saying to me, and I'm taking note internally and seeing, okay, what resonates with me, what can I do better, and how can I do it. So I take time, I introspect every day, but in terms of taking time intentionally, I write and I also meditate. Okay, so we have the last question of the evening, and then I'm gonna give some takeaways, and then I'm gonna leave with a poem, and then you can catch me on the next episode. I'll have a guest, so it will be more of a dialogue, and I will get their perspective on all these questions. Like I said, these questions are the control for this podcast, just to see, different perspective, because I don't want to just stay in my reality, right? I don't want nobody to stay in their reality. I want all of us to grow mentally in any way or form that we can. Okay, so have you ever been in a committed relationship? Did you enjoy it? And what did you learn and areas of improvement? Yes, I've been in a committed relationship. My first committed relationship was terrible. Not terrible in the sense that the relationship was terrible. I was terrible. I was terrible to an extent because, that was the first time that I had love in my hand, that type of passionate love, and I really didn't know what to do with it, and in situations that could have been handled differently, it was just hot and heavy. I just was hot and heavy. So as I went through different relationships, I became less calm, more of that type of woman where not totally submissive, but I took time to just respect my partner and not fight every battle. Right, so that's the areas of improvement, and I really enjoyed my progression in terms of the different relationships. So these are the lovely questions for the podcast. If anybody have any suggestions, any questions, let me know. Right, so I'm gonna end with one of my poems called Solitude. I think that taking time to sit in solitude is wonderful. It gives clarity, and it gives a sense of refreshment every time you step into the world. It's very rejuvenating, solitude. So this is my poem called Solitude. And I just recently started performing this piece. So, hope you enjoy. Solitude, the highest of my peace. For in you, I find clarity. In you, whole center, I find myself reconnect amidst the deepest shadows. Solitude, you reign supreme and ignite the darkness, allowing my own truth, my own purpose, my heart's ultimate desires to join forces, thus becoming flickering stars in this space, reinforcing the great I am. So when you see me on this journey, which seems lonesome, for that I am not. I am with the lowest, untouched parts of the ocean sometimes, but most times I am with undiscovered galaxies, for these are the spaces where I'm most at one in bliss with self, with me at the highest of my peace in solitude. Thank you. So I really enjoyed sharing space with you guys. Please tune in for the next episode. This was only me alone talking and just giving my own personal viewpoint. We want to have somebody else sitting, so it's going to get more juicy, spicy, all right, the different stories that's going to come up. So please stay tuned. And if you want to hop on the show because you got something to share with the masses, I would love to have you. So send S.STREET Media a DM or send me woman a DM. All right, it's community, right? It's community. We're trying to just build healthy family, healthy foundation, healthy people. So like I said, thank you for sharing time and space with me. I hope you enjoy your evening, and I will catch you on the next episode of P.P.P. Peace, power and prosperity.